FromSoftware continues to amaze. Since 2009, they have been known as a Souls company and have gained an incredible reputation because of it. Bloodborne was the first to teach us this, as they riled gamers up with nothing but a little, not Dark Souls related, teaser of their PlayStation 4 exclusive. Fast forward 2 years from that, and they did it again with the teaser trailer for Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice, showing us once more the result of the amazing reputation they have built. Of course, none of that would prepare us for what was to come, as in 2019, they dropped us the reveal trailer for a little game called Elden Ring, and not much else. 2 years later, said Elden Ring would finally get its first trailer before releasing a year later. It's fascinating just how far this company that made kinda crappy games has come. That being said, Elden Ring is finally here, FromSoftware's latest and largest entry in the Soulsborne genre, with lore from A Song of Fire and Ice creator George R.R. Martin. From really doesn't want to leave its stomping grounds, and can we blame them? They not only delivered us the intense Demon Souls, they also gave us a cultural phenomenon, Dark Souls, the underrated Dark Souls 2, the stellar Bloodborne, as well as Dark Souls 3 and Sekiro. It makes perfect sense for them to want to keep honing their craft, so they bided their time after years and years of silence and then a delay after. Elden Ring is now in our hands. Was it worth the wait? Has FromSoft delivered us another age of gold? Or has the formula, and the man behind the games, finally started to tarnish after all the successive games? This may not be called Dark Souls 4, but boy does it not even try to deny that it may as well be. Welcome to the lands between, where you are a Tarnished, one who has lost the grace of the Erd Tree, basically the world tree that is ever present in the world, and was cast out, never to return. Things have gone bad in the lands between, and a war caused the mystical and altogether unexplained Elden Ring to be destroyed, sending the land into a wave of chaos and death. Seeing as things have unceremoniously gone tits up, the Erd Tree decides to extend its grace once again to the Tarnished, allowing them back into the lands between in order to try and set things right. As a newly awoken Tarnished, it is your job to traverse the hostile lands of the lands between, find the bears or the great runes, and separate them from their heads in order to take the rune for yourself. Doing all this and then traveling to the Erd Tree will somehow make you the Elden Lord and fix all this. Somehow. But hold on a minute there, buddy. You're not just any Tarnished. Kid, don't even got any maidens up in here. What does that mean, you ask? Well, I can't actually tell you that, as the game's lore is as impenetrable as ever, and that makes it all the more exciting to explore and see what you can find. Never fear, my fellow maidenless Tarnished. The mysterious Melina appears out of thin air when you are chilling at a totally not bonfire and offers to act as your maiden. Which I sure hope the rest of you got as much of a kick out of that phrasing as I did. What does this mean, do you ask? Well, it lets you level up. And that is all that's apparent right away. Look, if you played any From game other than Sekiro, you'd understand that the discovery here is built differently than other games. While other games explain more as you go, Souls games give you more puzzle pieces as you go and ask for you to complete the puzzle. The biggest problem is that not all the pieces are there typically, and some may not fit completely, but it's an enjoyable way to tackle a story. It especially works here thanks to the actual world design, which we'll jump right into first. The thing that immediately makes this game way different from its brothers and sisters is the vast world that your maidenless ass will traverse in order to get anything done. Now, let me start by saying this is a massive world, and it's designed expertly, which is surprising considering this is From's first open world game. What's even crazier is that after you reach a certain site of grace, which are this game's versions of Dark Souls bonfires, you'll have free reign of the place. Now, this isn't as free as a game like Breath of the Wild, as you will get your shit pushed in if you wander into the wrong neighborhood without a specific set of skills, but you are free to explore however you want. Even if you take the wise road and stick to the opening zone of Limgrave, you'll have hours of content to explore and plenty of time to toughen up for the journey ahead. While exploring Limgrave, or one of the many other zones if you're courageous enough and have gotten good, you'll notice that the game is not just horizontally big, it's also vertically so, and From uses this to its advantage quite well, even going so far as adding a jump button to let you get around better. To help with exploration, as this will be a pain in the ass to traverse on foot, you have the goat horse thing Torrent who will ferry you around and let you travel the lands between in style. Not only do you move faster on Torrent, you can not only jump, but double jump, letting you travel up and down much easier as well. Torrent also has the ability to hop into Spirit Springs, a pillar of wind, to launch the two of you skyward, making traversal even more enjoyable. They also keep you in the game longer by making enemy groups refill used flasks, meaning sitting at one of the many graces is not always important. Graces also let you fast travel at any time, so go nuts exploring. This has to be some of the most fun exploration that offers the most fulfilling sense of discovery I've ever had the pleasure of experiencing in a game in some time. Just like Breath of the Wild before it, it's impressive for From's first time. Now, despite this being an open world game, the looting and stabbing is still 100% Souls. You'll still find and upgrade gear in the same way as before, and still work out builds and aim to keep your stats focused. The wide world offers plenty of opportunity for combat, and the combat is still incredibly enjoyable as it was in every other Souls game. Enemies are incredibly aggressive, and the wide world increases the scale and feel of the encounters as everything is taking place in a bigger world, and this can lead to encounters you never would have experienced in the prior games, such as a bear tearing into a group of wolves or two opposing factions fighting each other. It's still incredibly scripted, but it does go a long way to make it feel like this is a proper world. A dead one, but still. It also helps that you can use the jump button, mostly made for world traversal, in combat, allowing you to perform heavy jumping attacks or even avoid enemy attacks with a well-timed jump. Returning from Dark Souls 3 are the weapon arts, this time called Ashes of War, and they add a great deal of customization to the combat as you can find the skills and slot them into whatever common weapon they fit into, even going so far as to let you change the properties and scaling of said weapon. These are found either from bosses or from little scarabs that are found rolling the ashes around in the world. Finding them really expands your combat options, and it goes a step further into making FP matter to melee players as well as magic. Speaking of magic, it's been greatly expanded here as well, and actually feels useful. Overall, this game feels close to the Dark Souls 3 gameplay wise, but the lands between being an open world, combined with the addition of a jump button, make the game feel all its own at the same time. That being said, Elden Ring is still brutally hard. Expect to get your ass handed to you on several occasions. Now, what would a Souls game be without its NPCs? Be safe in the knowledge that Elden Ring brings back the traditional Souls-style NPC side quests, and go mad in the knowledge that it takes a page out of Dark Souls 3's book and is as obtuse as ever. From really likes to make cryptic bullshit, and the NPCs sure are here, especially in a world as big as this. Personally, I think this enhances the discovery, especially since they are not mandatory to completing the game, but it is an annoying attempt at replay value. It always is. Nevertheless, it's always good to see a friendly face here, be they a merchant or someone that might help you out against a particularly tough boss coming up. There is always something and someone to find. On a more gameplay feature side of things, multiplayer is back and as dumb as ever. You can summon 2 co-op partners to explore the wide world with you, but you need to use a consumable to see the signs first, and even then you need to find a summoning pool scattered around and activate it, or signs won't even show. This is an odd decision, but what's even more annoying is that invading is still focused on invading people with co-op players, meaning you'll always be fighting more than one person. Still, it's there for people who want it, and exploring with friends is always fun. If only the summoning pools were a bit more noticeable or marked. I think I've prattled on enough without even getting to the bosses, and boy are they a doozy here. These bastards are more aggressive than ever, and they come in all kinds of shapes and sizes, some even being jobbers given more health. Yeah, it's an open world game with tons of bosses, so what can you expect? Despite bosses in the world being reused, the bosses in the story are totally unique and are brutal. Expect to die to them over and over as you discover their attack patterns and mechanics. This is Souls, that's to be expected. One other big important thing about the bosses is that the story bosses are locked away within what are called legacy dungeons, a glorious slice of traditional Dark Souls heaven. These legacy dungeons are well crafted, old school experiences that would feel right at home in a traditional Dark Souls game, making this feel even more like Dark Souls 4. There are plenty of nooks and crannies to explore here as well, making them a joy to pick through. Also scattered about this vast world are many dungeons and outposts to explore. Dungeons are clearly indicated by the fact that you enter a cave or a catacomb, and they are accompanied by sites of grace. These offer a more controlled Dark Souls environment, similarly to the legacy dungeons, but they are much smaller scale and usually just have optional things hidden inside. These offer the majority of the content in the game and are a great deal of fun to explore, but they do get samey after a while, often featuring reused bosses or enemies. Still, each one is capped off with a boss, and the reward is typically worth it, so you may as well dive in. Now, for a hot topic it seems, the game's visuals. I personally think they look amazing, as art direction and small touches can make a game, and this is full of small things, such as the atmosphere at Caelid or the constant storms in Stormhill. They all come together to make an engaging world to explore. Each area is varied and offers their own unique sights and sounds and their own challenges to face. Of course, the enemies roaming about make the world as well, and there are some truly standout foes here, with plenty of "oh god, what is that" moments. This really is the next Souls game, and while it may not look as good as Sekiro overall, it looks great, even if it isn't technically astounding like, say, Horizon is. Music and voice work stand out as well, even if they might not be as standout as in prior games overall. The game oozes atmosphere, and the addition of actual music in the environment really elevates the world. Now, Elden Ring isn't perfect. Shocker, right? Even us maidenless can see that there are some wrinkles here and there. First up, the performance is fairly rough at times, even on the big, bad PlayStation 5. Also, the enemies can be too damn aggressive. I get it that bosses should be, but why is this little knight so strong? Like seriously, why is he above boss level in other games? It can just make the game more frustrating than it should be. Also, the game gets repetitive as nothing truly changes and you don't actually interact with the environment. Still, nothing truly damaging to the game, thankfully, but something to keep in mind. Elden Ring feels both like a love letter to all that came before and a glimpse at From looking at what other devs are doing while also doing a better job at it in a lot of ways. Open world Dark Souls was always just a glimmer in some fans' eyes back in the day, and now we finally have it. It's not as grandiose as some of the other Souls games, as the environment is mostly wilderness, but it brings about a sense of discovery unlike any game since Breath of the Wild. The thrill of adventure is always abundant in Elden Ring, and there is always some sight or some messed up monstrosity or some murderous boss waiting around every corner. It's truly majestic. It may not be perfect, but I truly believe in my heart of hearts that a game can be greater than the sum of its parts. But Elden Ring really doesn't have to worry about that, does it? As its parts are full of quality that just make other aspects shine. Whether you are locked in combat with a vicious enemy or traversing the Scarlet Rot of Caelid, it's hard not to realize why people are enamored with this game. From your humble beginnings in Limgrave to your ascension as the Elden Lord, your maidenless Tarnished walks away with a golden 10 out of 10. This game is irreplaceable. Nothing can do it justice other than playing it for yourself. You may be maidenless, but you are also the Elden Lord. Maidens just gotta give you a chance.